Hey everyone, Stephanie here. So after I hit gold, I started pulling some pretty tough opponents. As you can see, I've been losing a lot, but I have been having a lot of fun, and today I would like to share with you two matches. One was a win and one was a loss, and both were really fun learning experiences for me. So for both of those matches, I was playing Abyssian, which is like the witchy class. And out of the three possible generals, I picked Lilith for her ability to summon two wraithlings. And this works really well with the buff that you get from Wanderer, because it means once Wanderer hits the board, all the wraithlings are +2 and +2. Now I have tried going with a traditional Swarm deck with like 3 copies of Furiosa, 3 copies of Wraithling Swarm, 3 copies of all of the cards that work really well with this strategy, but I decided in the end to go with the Wanderer set with 40 unique cards instead of like sets of 3, because for one thing, I don't have 3 copies of the more expensive cards like Furor Chakram, so it's more budget friendly. And another thing is, playing Wanderer kind of throws your opponent off because they don't know exactly which cards you have in your deck. So like if you play a traditional set and you put down, you know, Furor Chakram, they know that you have 3 copies of this and they know how to play around that. But then if you only have 1 Furor Chakram and then you have other random stuff, like they don't know how you're going to react, so basically it makes you more unpredictable. However, in order for the Wanderer strategy to work, you also kind of have to have different cards that do basically the same thing and different ways of answering the same threat. So like, let's say there's a really threatening minion on the board and you have to get rid of it right away. So what I put in here was, I have a number of ways to get rid of it. One is Demonic Lure, so I can move it somewhere where it's not as threatening. I can dispel it. I can damage it with like a Wraithling, or with, let's say, my Blood Tier Alchemist, make it take a little bit of damage and then use Punish to just destroy it. I can use Repulsor Beast to move it somewhere where it's not threatening. Use a Ritual Banishing, destroy one of my Wraithlings to destroy that minion. Dispel it with Lightbender. Use Silhouette Tracer to move my general somewhere safe. So you get the idea, like even though all of these cards are different, they all allow me to respond to certain situations. So like I have a variety of ways to respond to threats. Another example, let's say I really want to spike up some damage and come up with a game-winning play at the end before they kill me. So I can accelerate that with Furor Chakram, all of my friendly minions gain +2 attack. I have Shadow Reflection, give a friendly minion +5 attack. Give myself +2 attack. Give all of my friendly minions +2 attack. So again, you get the idea. So the first match I'm gonna show you was against this Vanar opponent who was using a walls strategy. It was a really entertaining match. Anyway, so this was my opening hand, and I discarded the more expensive cards that cost a lot of mana because I only start with 3 mana, and then 4 and then 5, so it's gonna take me a while before I can cast any expensive spells. And so he chose the general that has Kinetic Surge as the Bloodbound spell, which, and also the first move that he did was to summon this wall. So I kind of understood right away that he was going for like a hyper defensive strategy, and the strategy is to kind of blunt the opponent's attempts at doing damage and just fill the board with walls as soon as possible, and then toward the end activate the walls and have the walls destroy the opponent. So what I did here was, I didn't happen to draw any cheap minions besides S Herald, so I just had to use it. And so what he did here was he played Mana Forger, which makes it cheaper to cast spells. Like all of these wall summoning spells are spells, so it costs less mana for him to do that, and he is starting to fill up the board with walls, as you can see. And here I decided to play Ash Method because I realized that I needed to ramp up my board presence as much as possible against this type of opponent. So this minion summons 2 copies of itself. It's a weak minion for 5 mana, but it allows me to just get some units on the board. Alright, so what he played here was Bastion, which is at the end of your turn, give all friendly minions +1 health. And since I was unable to reach the Bastion right away, I decided to play my White Widow, which is whenever I replace a card, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. So this is just like a kind of like a ranged unit. Allows me to apply some damage from a distance, and then I used my various Ash methods to start hitting and get rid of some stuff. And I tried to move that one closer to the Bastion. Then what I did here was, because my Bloodbound spell recharged, I was able to summon 2 Wraithlings. So he recognized that my Ash method at the back there is a threat and is going after the Bastion, so he sent both himself and his Mana Forger after it. And then he played another wall, Luminous Charge. So the thing is, these walls have 0 attack, but like when you attack it and you have to get out of this trap, it does 2 damage to all nearby enemies. Alright, and he played his Bloodbound spell, which gives all of his stuff +1 attack and +1 health. So what I did here was I played Furor Chakram. Give all of my units increased attack and frenzy. And I made a slight mistake here. I was focused on getting rid of the stuff there, and I forgot that the walls explode and destroy my artifacts. So like, this Ash method should have hit for more damage, but my Furor Chakram got destroyed right there. But I did clear like the walls, most of them, and I played Void Pulse to top up my health a little bit. Okay, so he is going after this Ash method. And then he played another Bastion. And he played Adjudicator to make it even cheaper to cast spells. So it lowers the cost of all the spells in his action bar. So what I did here was I played my AoE, Breath of the Unborn. And the point of that was to get rid of this Bastion. And I used my Ass Herald to destroy the Adjudicator so I could move into that square and get rid of that Bastion. Now he only has 1 Bastion left, which is still a huge threat because it does mean that at the end of every turn all of his stuff gets +1 health. So after I summoned my Wraithlings, he got rid of one of the Wraithlings and he is summoning more walls, Blazing Spines. He got rid of my Wraithling with his Mana Forger. This is a really entertaining match because I kind of felt like I was, you know, piloting this zombie invasion, sort of, or like a Wraithling invasion, and he's just setting up all these enormous walls to defend against my army. Okay, so what I did here was I played Silhouette Tracer, teleported my general that way so I could destroy that Bastion. And then I played my Fizzling Mystic, which has the opening gambit to deal 2 damage, so I was able to get rid of the Bastion. And what he did here was he played Myriad. Myriad summons a random wall every time he casts his Bloodbound spell, so he cast his Bloodbound spell and then that new gravity wall just appeared right there. And then because his walls have attack right now, so he was able to command them to get rid of my Fizzling Mystic. So this wall has provoke, so I had to hit it with my general, and then I played Lightbender, which dispels all the units around it. So I was able to get rid of those 2 walls and also dispel the ability of the Myriad. Then I played Furiosa, which increases the attack and health of my wraithlings every time I cast my Bloodbound spell. So here he cast Frostburn, which is the Vanar version of the AoE, and got rid of all of my units with low health. Then he sent his general after my Silhouette Tracer and he summoned more walls. So at this point my general is boxed in by all of those walls. Alright, we're now up to 9 mana each. I played my Spectral Blade, which increases my attack and also allows me to get 2 health back every time I destroy an enemy unit. So I got rid of 2 of the walls, and then I played my Wanderer because I had the mana at this point to be able to do that. Alright, so he's gonna move into that position, use his Vespier to hit me, and use the walls to hit me to get rid of my artifact. And at this point he cast this really expensive card, which is Ice Age, summons walls all around the edge of the board. So at this point I knew that unless I was able to kill him this turn, I would be dead the next turn. Now I was very low on cards at this point, so what I did was I cast my Bloodbound spell, and then I cast Inkling Surge to draw a card. So let's see what I drew. Fortunately, I drew Demonic Lure, which allowed me to get rid of that wall that was blocking the way. So I teleported that wall to somewhere irrelevant to open up space for myself and my Wanderer, and then I gave my Wanderer +5 attack. So it now has 12 attack, and then 12 + 2 for my general allowed me to finish off this fight. That was extremely close, and I really enjoyed this match. Now it looked like I got really lucky at the end there by drawing the Demonic Lure, but let me just show you like what else I could have drawn that would also have won me the match. So I could also have drawn Repulsor Beast, which would have allowed me to teleport that wall away. I could also have drawn Ephemeral Shroud, which would have gotten rid of the wall by dispelling it. And I could also have drawn Soul Shatter Pact, which would have allowed me to give the extra +2 damage I needed to my Wanderer instead of having to go in and attack with my general, so that would also have worked. Saber Spine Tiger would also have worked for the extra little bit of damage I needed. So yeah, there's a variety of cards I could have drawn. Now let's just take a look at the Vanar cards my opponent was playing. So he had the Ice Age at the end, very expensive card, cost 8 mana, summon Bleeding Spines all along the outside of the battle board. What he was going to do next was Winter's Wake, which is give all friendly wall minions +4/+4, and those minions can now move. So that was what was going to happen to me if I was unable to finish the match at that moment. Now the other match I would like to share with you was against a Vetruvian opponent. The Vetruvian faction is desert themed, so we're gonna move from the cold Ice Age into the desert now. This was my opening hand. I discarded my healing cards because matches against Vetruvian opponents tend to be pretty fast-paced. So he was using this general with the Iron Shroud Bloodbound spell, and he opened by casting Celebrant with a mana tile. Now what I did here was I played my crossbones. Like, I know they don't have range units typically, so I just wanted to get a fairly tanky body down on the battle board. Then what he did next was he played this card called Unseven. So when this minion dies, it summons a minion with Dying Wish from his action bar. So what that play told me was that he had a really powerful minion with Dying Wish in his action bar. So I used my Wraithling Swarm to take the mana tile, and then I played my Ephemeral Shroud to dispel this minion, and then I got rid of it with my general and my cheap summon. So he's doing a very common combo for Vetruvian players, which is to combine the Celebrant with Golem Metallurgist, which makes it cheaper to summon golems, and then they also have this card called Dream Shaper, which is another golem that allows them to draw cards. So between, you know, lowering the mana cost and also drawing cards, it just makes it that much faster for them to build up their board. Now what I did here was I cast my AoE and I used my general's attack to get rid of some stuff on the field. So I got rid of his Iron Dervish and his Dream Shaper, and then I played my own Bloodbound spell and established 2 Wraithlings. But it was still like a really fragile situation right now because all of my stuff only has 1 health, so if he had like a Blistering Scorn or anything like that, all of my stuff would have died. But it turned out he did not have an AoE, so he attacked one of my Wraithlings with his general, and then he played this card that I've never seen before, which is Oseric. So this turned out to be what he was trying to summon with the N7. Dying Wish is to equip 2 random artifacts, and also has the ability Flying, which allows it to move anywhere. So here I played my Wanderer, which powered up all of my stuff by a 1 attack and 1 health, and then I decided to just cash in the damage value of my smaller summons because, like, just in case he had AoEs or really efficient ways to kill my creatures. I do know that Vetruvian opponents typically don't have a lot of recovery options, whereas I do have, you know, stuff like Void Pulse, so that's why I attacked with my general right there. Now what he did was he sent his minion next to my general, and then he used this card called Sensual Reader to bounce my Wanderer back to my action bar. It does mean that I no longer have the Wanderer on the board, but because I already summoned my Wanderer, the stat benefits stay, so all of my minions are going to continue to have +1 and +1. Now what I did was I realized that since he had a lot of creatures on the board, I played Shadowstalk, which summons 1 Wraithling behind each enemy. So it was a very cheap way for me to just get 5 Wraithlings on the board, and then I played Silhouette Tracer because I wanted to get away from the really threatening creatures right there, and then I played Void Pulse to top up my health a little bit. So the idea here was I expected him to trade his Iron Dervish and all of his stuff into my Wraithlings, and then I would have a slight health advantage. But what he did next was really surprising, so pay close attention to what happens here. He buffed this minion, cleared the Wraithling, cleared the path, and sent them in, and then I had 5 health left at this point. Now what he did was he cast a spell called Arid Unmaking, which destroyed the minion, and because that minion had the Dying Wish, which was to equip an artifact, it suddenly made his general have 5 attack instead of 2. And he was able to just take out my general right there at the end. So let's take a look at the Vetruvian cards in crafting. What happened there was this minion with Dying Wish is to equip 2 random artifacts from the deck. So after he cashed in the damage value of this minion, he destroyed it with this spell called Arid Unmaking, and that triggered the Dying Wish, which was to equip an artifact. Now what was that artifact? It was Hexblade. Your general gains +3 attack. So it required a very careful deck setup. He basically had Hexblade in his deck, and then he combined that with the Oserics, and also with the ability to destroy minions and trigger the Dying Wish. And the other stuff that he had was Sensual Reader, which is to return a nearby minion and turn that space into sand. And also the Golem combo. So Dream Shaper is to Bond means that when you summon Dream Shaper, when there is another golem on the board, it allows you to draw 2 cards. And the other golems were Celebrant, which allows him to create a mana tile, and Golem Metallurgist, which makes it cheaper to summon golems. So all of this stuff allowed him to power up really quickly. And yeah, it was very interesting. Definitely has gotten me more interested in the Vetruvian faction. Right now I don't have a lot of Vetruvian cards unlocked, but it definitely is a faction I will be looking into playing more in the future. So yeah, those were 2 very fun matches, exposed me a little bit to the different playstyles that are possible for Vanar and Vetruvian. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.